What type of fighter would resort to spitting on their opponent before a fight? Or slapping them in the face when they got too close for comfort? Well, Derek Chisora is a heavyweight with a bit of a track record for this kind of behavior. And though he remains a popular figure among fight fans, especially in the UK, there's an argument to be made that he is among the most disrespectful fighters in the history of boxing. Chisora grew up in his birth country of Zimbabwe, eventually moving to London when he was 16 years old. He didn't begin his boxing career until he was 19, fighting 20 times on the amateur circuit before working his way into the pro ranks. A particularly violent opening run as a professional led him directly into the path of a young Tyson Fury, who would hand him his first professional loss. The next major bout for Chisora would come just under a year later, when he took on the great Vitaly Klitschko, a dominant force of nature at the very top of the heavyweight division. And Chisora knew that he couldn't rely on his skills alone to get this one, and from the moment he had the opportunity, he started to dig into Vitaly with a stream of trash talk.
You are going down in the 8th round.
You know what? I'll be there after I whoop your ass, though.
Accusing Klitschko of having one foot out the door in the sport, with an eye on eventually moving over to politics.
This is the best time for me to whoop your ass before you become the Ukraine president, because I know that's what you're trying to do right now, so.
But it was at the pre-fight weigh-ins that we really started to see Chisora's mean side come out. A tense stare-down can sometimes result in a bit of pushing here and there, but for Derek to openly slap the champion in the face like this, it was clear that he was painting himself as the villain in this bout. He even went after Vitaly's brother, Vladimir Klitschko, spitting water in his face during a particularly heated stare-down. But both of these Ukrainian icons were insanely calm in the face of Chisora's clear attempts to provoke them. You really have to have inhuman levels of patience to stand there and smile at someone after they literally just spat water in your face. Naturally, the fans were not particularly thrilled with Chisora's behavior, calling it a disgrace to the sport of boxing. But it would be Vitaly who made the loudest statement of all, allowing his fighting to do his talking for him. He soundly beat Chisora over the course of 12 rounds to put Del Boy's technical limitations into focus for him. He just didn't have an answer for what Vitaly was able to do, becoming just another big name on Klitschko's impeccable resume. Back to the drawing board for Derek, but it would not be long until he found himself in yet another heated rivalry. In fact, the fallout from his bout with Vitaly had barely ended, and Chisora had signed on the dotted line to take on a man who would not shy away from engaging him head-on in the trash-talking department. Chisora's outrageously offensive tactics against Klitschko might have painted him as the bad guy in that rivalry. But you gotta admit, it certainly opened the doors to bigger showdowns in the future. And the fight with Hay was always going to produce a crazy rivalry. But before they even put their signatures down for the fight, this bout got some huge momentum in the form of an argument that these two guys had at a press conference. Hay was the one who interrupted Chisora fielding questions to take shots at his recent form and losing streak.
Why are you not fighting me now? Because you're old and fucking too that's why. You realise you can't do it now.
Chisora certainly had some comebacks of his own, blasting Hay for his negotiation tactics, while the Brit accused him of ducking the fight. It was a shouting match that just kept amping up more and more, with neither man prepared to take a backstep. Eventually, the tension boiled over so much that Chisora decided to bring out the street fighter in him, getting right up in Hay's face with way more intensity than you'd expect from a pair of guys who were playing it up for the cameras. No, this was a real beef, and things were about to kick off. Chisora just kept pushing Hay back further and further, until he ended up eating a punch right in the face from the haymaker. And this was no pitter-patter shot either. No, these two were ready to kill. And it really takes a guy like Chisora to bring that out in a fighter. These two did not like each other one bit, and it really showed. When the fight was eventually booked, the pay-per-view promotion was a piece of cake. The backstory was already built in, and there was absolutely no reason to expect anything other than fireworks when they came face to face once again. He came out of that brawl looking a little better than Chisora did, playing up his role as the hero to Del Boy's villain, and promising the world that he would serve up some major justice when all was said and done in the ring.
I thought I taught Derek Chisora a lesson when he came over to me and tried to assault me, but obviously not. He wants to get knocked out in public and he wants to get paid for it, so you know, I've given him that opportunity.
Chisora didn't hold back during the press conference, accusing Hay of being all talk and a guy who can just never fully deliver when the occasion calls for it. Simply put, these guys were about as ready to throw down as any pair of fighters you'll ever see.
They give you all the big talk, you know, get in the ring, you don't deliver. It's all big talk anyway, so you know what, David, you keep talking. The more you keep talking, the more you get me upset. And the more I get upset, the more I'll jump over this thing right now.
They were so ready, in fact, that they were separated by a protective panel during their weigh-in face-off, which, under the circumstances, was pretty necessary. But when the gloves were on, and it mattered most, Chisora once again fell short. On fight night, though Del Boy started relatively strong, catching Hay with a few big shots, his opponent persevered, eventually turning the tide in the 5th round, using Derek's constant forward pressure against him. In that round, he managed to hand Chisora his first ever knockdown as a pro, sending him to the canvas and putting his chances of winning in some real jeopardy.
Wonderful left hook that was from David Hay.
It wouldn't take much longer until Hay found his mark again, turning up the heat in the final seconds of the 5th, putting the granite chin Chisora down once and for all. It was his first ever knockout loss as a pro, and a particularly bitter pill to swallow, considering just how deep this rivalry went. This would certainly mark a real low point for Chisora, one that removed any real hype about him rising up and truly becoming one of the greats in his division.
He's winning! He stopped the fight! It's all over!
Although, while we're on the subject of low points, the worst moment of Derek Chisora's career was undoubtedly this horrible attempt at trash talk towards Kubrat Pulev. A seriously bad piece of work on the mic that he will never live down. Seriously, it doesn't get any worse than that.
Basically, it's how this thing. You got Miss Universe there, yeah. And you got some Timbuktu chick somewhere, fat, smelly pussy. Which one would you go for? Would you rather wake up for and get hard on for? I'm getting my hard on for you. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So you have to understand. Now I am gonna come, vicious, man.
From there, the downslide would continue, although he would never be too far away from sharing the ring with a big-name opponent. In recent times, it's pretty clear that Chisora has chilled out to some degree. Reaching 40 years old and getting beaten for the 13th time as a pro will do that to a fighter. In his last truly big moment in the ring, Chisora signed on the dotted line to take on the great Tyson Fury, accepting the fight almost designed by the Gypsy King to give his old rival one last big payday before he inevitably retired. You could see that there was a certain respect between the two. In other words, this version of Del Boy was far removed from the man who once spat in his opponent's face.
But come on Saturday, I can guarantee you this. Friendship will be out the door. Me and this big man, we are gonna get it on.
The peaceful nature of the pre-fight build-up didn't make Fury's punishing performance any less brutal. And by round 10, the referee did Chisora a favor, stepping in to save this aging fighter from any further damage. With that, Chisora's last shot at the belt came to an end, and though he didn't get there in the end, locking horns with some of the greatest heavyweights of his era left Del Boy with a career well worth being proud of. But at his worst, he was one of the most disrespectful fighters this sport has ever known.